am lifted in the love of the Holy, Holy Spirit. Oh, what a joy God is being. Praise the Spirit all day long. Praise the Spirit all day long. My turn. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. I am moving to the rhythm of the Holy, Holy Spirit. This dance of life God inspires, keeps me dancing. My faith is strong, keeps me dancing. My faith is strong. And oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh, hallelujah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Oh yeah, hey yeah. Hallelujah. My faith is strong. Would you greet somebody with that? Here we go. Greet someone. Wish them good morning. Vanessa. It's such a joy to introduce Vanessa Montenegro. Vanessa is another person so dear to my heart, as I mentioned. We lived many years together, and I'm just thrilled that she's with us. She's a student at Bakersfield College, a psych biology major, and does a little music on the side, which is great. Vanessa, here we go.
I'm broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. We gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like a day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll bring the world to its feet and move mountains. We'll bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, high like the waves. We'll rise up, in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Here we go. The words of that song are so incredible that we will rise up again. We know that for our souls in the hurricane. We know that for each one of us. Thank you, Vanessa. So, Reverend Gregory. Gregory Toole is an ordained minister with the Centers for Spiritual Living. He is the founding spiritual director of Samseva, a focus ministry with Centers for Spiritual Living, whose mission is to inspire authentic, compassionate relationships through spiritual education, tools, and practice that promote peacemaking and conscious action. Couple other things. He was an executive director, there's a lot more. Executive director of a youth development organization in Oakland. He was the spiritual director, the senior minister at CSL Davis, and he holds a master's degree in consciousness studies from the Holmes Institute and a master's in management from MIT. Would you welcome Reverend Gregory, please?
Thank you very much. Well, great to be here again. And let's see, my water bottle is not going to fit there, so we'll figure out something else on this. Oh, wow. That is really fancy. Wow, you guys. Well, okay, I've now learned how to be in a fancy pulpit here with a special place for water. So good to be here. This is my fourth time here in Bakersfield and here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Bakersfield. The first time being, I think it was 2011, and how beautiful to see you all continuing to move forward and step forward. It's great to witness and see spiritual community unfolding and the great work that you all are doing. And that great work that you all are doing is the work you're doing on yourselves. You know, that deep inner work, that's how we change the world. That's what my book is about, is how do we recognize the connection between that deep inner work that we are doing and that we are literally changing the world. I remember someone telling me years ago about an organization we were both part of and how they said, this organization will never change. And I had just become a part of the organization. And I said, it just did. It just did change. I just joined. It changed already. And the person said, oh, get out of here, And I'm like, no, seriously. And that's really the truth. When we bring our light, when we bring our consciousness, and we realize that we make a difference, how powerful that is. Today's topic is seeming opposites. The first seeming is S-E-A-M, and the second seeming is S-E-E-M. Seeming opposites. Oneness revealed in our relationships. And the title, the seeming opposites, the seeming opposites comes from a spiritual principle, a key principle of science of mind that said spirit is an infinite wholeness that embraces all seeming opposites. Therefore, it includes everything that we think of in our humanness as opposites and other. And remember when Jennifer was saying, oh. I love that. Because we're going to perhaps stretch a little bit here today into that all that Jennifer was inviting us into. That it includes all, it includes everyone. Wow. Did we know what we were getting ourselves into when we came into a teaching whose first principle is oneness? Wow. Do we really mean that? Do we really mean that all of life is one and all of life is divine? Yes, we do. And today, let's see if we can stretch into that a little bit. I'm going to be telling a story as I go forward of someone in my life years ago who I really made into an other. It was a woman who we were both on a board together. And I, in my mind, began to think, her name was Deirdre. And I began to think that her purpose in life was to make me miserable, essentially. That at least her purpose at this board meeting, when we would show up to the board meeting, her purpose was to disagree with me, to fight me at every turn, and to essentially make my life miserable. And I began to make up all kinds of stories about her, which at the time I thought were totally true. That she was, for one, she was the toughest person on the planet. There was nobody tougher than Deirdre. That's one of the stories I made up. And so we went on and on about this, and I'm going to continue to tell you about her. But I want to really talk today about the ways that we create others. The ways that we create otherness. Anyone here create otherness ever? Anyone have anyone in your life where you go, it's kind of like where we say like, yeah, totally believe in oneness. Yes, totally includes everyone. Except for there is this one person where the fabric of the universe bent a little bit, and there was a little like black hole or something. I don't know astronomy well enough, but there was something that happened in the fabric of the universe, and there's a little hole, little place where the stitching in the universe broke a little bit or tore a little bit, and this person somehow got excluded from that all. That oneness thing, like totally believe it, but that person, somehow they got in that little hole in the fabric of the universe, you see, right? I mean, that sounds funny, but it's as if that were true sometimes when we begin to make an other, right? And when we begin to make an other, we create a great story about that other. I had an experience coming into Science of Mind, my very first Science of Mind minister, and I was the president of her board, and I began to make up a story about my minister because I'd have something really important to talk to my minister about. And so I would go to her and I'd say, I really need to talk to you about such and such. And she would get up and walk, this is my story, she would get up and walk away. And she was my minister, so I gave a lot of slack, like, okay, she's busy, she's got a lot going on. Well, finally, one day, I had come to my wit's end, and I went to her, and I went to talk to her about something I thought was really important, and I said, Reverend Eloise, I need to talk to you, and she got up and walked away, and I said, darn it, Reverend Eloise, every time I want to talk to you about something important, you get up and walk away. And she said, that's really interesting that you're saying that. She said, I grew up in the country, and in the country where we were, if you wanted to talk to someone about something, you got up and you took a walk with them. And she said, I could never understand you because every time you said you wanted to talk to me and I started to take a walk with you, you never came along. So she said, I really got to wondering about you. Like, you say you want to talk to me, and then I start walking and you don't come. And we both have told this story because we really laughed at this way we can start to make up a story and create an other. Like, she doesn't like me. She doesn't respect me. She doesn't honor me. She doesn't think my opinion is important. All a story. All a made-up story. Yes. Transformation of our world begins with transforming ourselves. Where do we start to create an other, even though we believe in oneness? So with Deidre, this woman on the board, I had her, she's tough as nails, and she probably plots before coming to the meeting how she's going to subvert my plans, right? The story just kept on running on and on. But this is what we do. But in the science of mind, as I said, there is this core concept that says that spirit is a transcendent, perfect whole that contains and embraces all seeming opposites. So where we create an opposite and where we create otherness, there is a higher place in us, not out there in the universe. There is a higher place in us that can embrace all seeming opposites. Take that in. Breathe that in for a moment. There is a place in us. This is how big we are. This is how powerful we are. This is the stretch I'm inviting us into today. Because it may not be easy to do this all the time, but if we, the ones who believe in oneness, the ones who believe that spirit is an infinite wholeness that embraces all seeming opposites, aren't doing it, who will do it? We look out into our world today, and we see what appears to be lots of division, lots of separation. And what is our role in that? Is our role to participate in all of this division and separation, or is our role to step up a level where we can see the wholeness? I got to saying myself, you know how there's that saying, my way or the highway? None of you have ever said that, I'm sure. My way or the highest way. My way or the highest way. In other words, I'll just speak about me. Maybe this isn't true of you. Sometimes I get so into my own opinion that I start to think it's actually right and the truth. It's not just my opinion, it's the truth. That's the way life is. Because I've thought about it deeply. I've done the research. I've thought about it. I'm a very thoughtful person. I'm very smart. You heard her read. I went to MIT, right? I must have had some smarts to go to MIT. So therefore, I've done the research. I've read the issues. I've studied up on it. I know more than, I think at least, more than most people on this particular thing. And therefore, this is the right way. My way. But it's like my way or the highest way. Maybe I don't see the whole picture. So I'll give you full disclosure here. I politically kind of lean, okay, yeah, I'm kind of going there, all right? Stay with me here. I kind of lean liberal, right? And that's what I call it now. I have a liberal bias. I used to say I am liberal. No, I'm not liberal. I have a liberal bias. I see things through that lens. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean my opinions are right. It's an awareness that is, it's like someone over on this side of the room sees what's going on here in a very different way than someone in the back of the room. It doesn't mean that one of them is right and one of them is wrong. It means that they have a different place that they're seeing it from. So my liberal bias simply means that's the place I sit in the room. I sit over here, so I look at the world from over here. Someone else has what we call, say, a conservative bias, and they see the world sitting over here. I did a little experiment recently. I decided I would read online NBC News a lot. If I wanted to get my news, I would read NBC News. And I thought NBC News has a bit of a liberal bias, but basically it's telling the truth. It's just the truth, right? So I decided to start to read Fox News alongside of NBC News, right? And so I'm reading. The first time I read Fox News, I was appalled. This is so biased. So biased. But I stayed with the experiment. As I stayed with the experiment, I began to see how biased NBC News was. I began to see that they were both very biased. And the reason I never saw the bias in the NBC News is because it agreed with my bias. So therefore, they were just very intelligent. They agreed with me. They're very intelligent people over there. It's not bias, it's just the truth. It's just the way it is. But I began to see how I can have a blind spot for my own bias if I hang around with and only listen to those that see the world like I see the world. It starts to become hardened. It starts to become just the way it is. And then there's those other people who don't get it, right? Those other people, they don't get it. I wish everyone were like us. I wish everyone would get it. I live in Boulder, Colorado, very liberally minded community. They call it the Boulder Bubble. Call it the Boulder Bubble because it's like this little, can almost become like this little fantasy world, this like liberal fantasy world, right? Where we all like agree with each, not everyone, but like, you can just find so many people. It's very spiritually oriented, not like the more religious. It's very spiritually oriented. It has everything that fits like my worldview, so to speak, or the way I see things. So it becomes like a bubble. Begin to believe that the bubble is the real world. Believe that the bubble is the way everyone ought to think, everyone ought to be. But wow, what happens when we can step out of that I am right and the other is wrong? This is so much of what is going on in our world. If we look at, for example, that I'm using here, our two political parties, right? It's gotten so much to the point where, gosh, if you're part of the other party, you wear horns. You are evil. You have evil agenda. You have an evil agenda. Everything you do, if you're part of the other, it's not only that what you're doing is wrong. It's like there's some sinister agenda behind it. Are we getting stretched at all yet here? Because I am talking to you and me, right? Like we know where our world is and we know where we play in that, right? Like we who believe in oneness, we who believe in this wholeness that embraces all seeming opposites. But how is all of that going to be raised up and healed and have the truth revealed, the truth of oneness revealed in our world, if we who have oneness as our very first principle aren't the ones who are practicing that? Someone said to Jesus, "Master, this is a hard teaching," because he taught unconditional love. It's a hard teaching. When I became a minister, I said, I choose to not have animosity toward any other person. Whew. Wow. It's a great teacher. It's a great teacher. Because what do I do when I have animosity towards someone else? I took a vow, like I will not have animosity toward any other person. So what do I do when that comes up? That becomes my teacher. Because I have set that intention, it's like, wow. I've got to find a way to see the divinity in this person, in this being. Now, I've already disclosed that I have a liberal bias, so you would know that when our President Donald Trump was running, I was not voting for him. But I had a dream about him. I had a dream about him that changed things for me. I didn't plan the dream. Do you plan your dreams? No, the dream just happened. And in the dream, it was very simple. It was very short, very simple. In the dream, I made direct eye contact with him, like full-on eye contact, not just seeing his eyes, but you know how we do, where we really look at each other, we really see each other. And it changed everything for me. Still not a fan, I still didn't vote for him, but it took all the rest of that story out of it, where I saw into his being, and he was no longer the enemy. He was no longer the other. He never was, but from my place I was sitting, that's the story I made up. There's so many ways we can create an other, and as much as most of us like to be right, I know to be right, much more to be wrong. Sometimes being right can be the worst thing. Because once you're right, well, now you can do all kinds of things, right? So our sense sometimes of righteous indignation can really help us to start to create an other. This is really a stretch here for most of us. For me, it is for sure. I am embracing and really wanting with deep curiosity to understand all people, all beings, everywhere. All. Thank you, Jennifer. All. I mean, really all. How many of you know that is not easy? I read about the events that unfolded in Charlottesville, Virginia recently. And thankfully, I've been doing this work. And I began to tune out all the surface level stuff. Like, oh, there's neo-Nazis, and there's white supremacists, and there's white nationalists, and all the rest of that, and what that means, and they're like this huge other, right? They're like this big other out there. Like the media's like getting me, they're reeling me in, right? Like, I know you believe in oneness, but here, we got some really good stuff for you here. Like, let me see you work with this. But you know what? I'm still working on it, by the way. I wish I could tell you, like, okay, here you go. I'm still working on it. But there were some kernels just by simply having deep curiosity. Like not thinking of an other, but deep curiosity. Like, wow, what are people upset about in this march? I was able to hear something that got very little attention, although it was even in the media. One of the chants that was being chanted was, "You will not replace us." And I focused in on that as this heartfelt human cry. You will not replace us. And I was like, that is an entryway into some understanding. Oh, because then it's like, oh. It's like Reverend Eloise when she said, oh, and when we're in the country, we get up and we take a walk. I was like, oh, like you're thinking that someone is wanting to replace you, that like you're going to be marginalized, you're going to not be important anymore. I was like, oh. Not justifying anything that was said that was hateful or anything that was violent, none of that. None of the behavior that all of us could condemn, but refraining from creating an other. Because the unfortunate thing, if we could just create one couple little others, and there were just like this little tear in the fabric of the universe, and there were just a few people we put in there, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Might be able to live with that. But it doesn't stop like that. It doesn't work like that. The more we start to create the other, the more we create the other. And the more we create the other, the more other, and the more otherness, and the more otherness. And that, my friends, is how we got here in the first place. That's how we got here. That's how that march could even happen. That's how many of the other things could even happen. Because we've been in the consciousness of win, lose. Someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. Someone's got to be good, someone's got to be bad. But we're in a teaching that says there's a wholeness, there's a higher level of consciousness that can embrace all seeming opposites. What do you think the world would be today if we embraced that fully and lived that teaching throughout our history? So the invitation is to see beyond the appearance of what's happening, because the appearance can be very appalling at times of what's happening. However, Ernest Holmes would say, and Einstein said this as well, you can't solve a problem at the level that the problem was created. So if the problem was created by a sense of separation and otherness, we can't solve the problem by creating more separation and otherness. I know humanly we would want to, right? Because we can have believe me, when I first read some of the things that are going on, or when I read some of the things going on in the world, my first response can be very human in the sense of like, wow, like righteous indignation, right? And can have compassion for myself in that, and compassion for all of us in that. But if we're really talking about creating a world that works for everyone, if we're really talking about being a healing presence in the world, and we're really talking about working spiritual principle, and we know that the principle that the principle of oneness that we've not embodied, the separation and the otherness that we've created, have created where we are now, then we would have to know that more of that is not going to solve the problem. I'll give you a real life story, a real life example of where I witnessed this very personally. I went and supported there was a workshop that a man was giving in prisons. He was one of our ministers. And he was giving this workshop in prisons, and he gave it other places as well. It was an inner child journey workshop. And he started giving it in prisons. And it required a lot of staffing, a lot of people that had to be a part of it. And I was one of the people who chose to staff it. And so he went into a prison. And most of us were from East Bay Church, which was a largely African-American community. And in the workshop was a man who had been in the Ku Klux Klan his whole life. His whole family was in it. Had never really met a black person personally, but had great hatred toward African American people. Well, here's this man who also never really experienced much love in his life. So here's this man who never experienced much love in his life, who has had a hatred for black people all his life, being totally loved unconditionally by a group that was largely black. This man was transformed before our very eyes. It was amazing to see. If there ever was a time where I said, you know what, there really isn't an other. There really isn't. You gotta know what's behind there. So this man broke down in tears. Broke down in tears. This hardened, hateful, hate-filled, I should say, man broke down in tears at the realization that he also had made up a whole story based on everything he was taught growing up that turned out to be a lie. And how beautiful divine order is, that the first time he really experienced love, it would be the people he had made up the story about and dedicated his life to hating. how beautiful divine order is, because it could have been a whole different group of people that came in and did the same workshop. But how beautiful divine order is. Well, we got to witness that. I know our humanity sometimes wants us to create an other. And the invitation, I'm going around, my whole ministry is dedicated to this kind of work right now. To go around and invite people to stop creating more others, even when we are so right. Even when we have every reason to do so. For one reason, maybe for lots of reasons, but for the most important reason is that is what's going to heal our world. And creating another other, no matter how justified, will not. And not only will it not heal our world, it will add to exactly what we don't want in our world. Can we look in the eyes of the person who seems most opposite to us and maybe, like Jesus said, love your enemies. Love those that despitefully use you. Do you think he was kidding? Like, let's put a little humor in here in my teaching. Or did he really mean that? I think he really meant it. So I want to conclude by bringing back and concluding the story of my nemesis, Deidre, on the board. The story, boy, oh boy, I tell you, the story was wild by the time it all, it was just like, she's the toughest person on the planet. I've never met anyone so tough. I've never met anyone so fierce. I've never met anyone that was so evil. She just wants to make my life miserable. This is before I came into Science of Mind. And so, as you can probably tell, the Science of Mind teaching has changed my life. I came into Science of Mind and I just was like on fire with this teaching, and within 10 years I was a minister. That's how excited I got. There's nothing ever in my life that took me in so unconditionally like that just put me on a path toward what I'm doing now. So I've got a quiz for you. See if you've been paying attention. Who knows who introduced me to the Science of Mind teaching? Does anyone know? The lady in the second row has the answer. Is that amazing or what? The person who I thought was the worst thorn in my side, boy, if I could just get away from this person, get this person out of my life, they're here to make me miserable, introduced me to a teaching that 20 plus years later, she introduced me to that 23 years ago. And my whole life is dedicated to teaching Science of Mind and being a minister and doing this work, and has been for quite some time. How could that be? The person I made up, that she was the last person I thought would bring anything positive into my life. If I could just get away from her, I'd be happy. Much less that she would actually bring some benefit to me. It's just another example of how we make up these stories and we create an other, and it just builds and it builds. So when Charlottesville happened, yes, I was upset. But I also said, where does it all end? If I, in my righteous indignation, start to create more others, where does it all end? And where it ends for me is to not create others, to live the truth of oneness. And I invite you today also to do that with me, and I know you are. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Let's turn within for prayer. Let's take that right into prayer here. And so let us know this first principle of our teaching, oneness, that God is all that there is. One infinite wholeness, one divine perfection, one power, one presence, one essence of love that is expressing through and as all that is. This one power is the very power and presence in life that lives through me as my very being. And that is the truth of everyone here, that each one is a divine, perfect, whole, complete expression of God. This is the truth of every person in our lives and every person that concerns us, that each one is a whole, perfect, complete, divine expression of God, regardless of appearances. This is the truth at the center and at the core and at the essence of all that is. God is right there. And so it is in this awareness that I speak this word today, and I know that right now we are practicing oneness. We are practicing wholeness of seeming opposites. And we are the healing agent that is creating healing and opening and connection and a new story in our communities and in our world. And so for all of this and so much more, I give great thanks. And I release this to that immutable law, and I know it is done touching and agreeing with each person here. I know all is well. I invite you to ground and accept this with me with the words, and so it is. Amen.
Join me. Pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Oh, wonderful Spirit, pour your love in me, pour your love into my heart. Oh, wonderful Spirit, pour your joy in me, pour your joy into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit. And as the ushers come forward, Reverend Gregory has this invitation.
And so how good it is. I love, there's this phrase that we cannot outgive God, that whatever we give returns to us heaped up, pressed down, and running over. So what a great, joyous invitation to invite us into giving so joyously and freely and unselfishly, and yet in the back of our mind with a nice little beautiful chuckle that, oh my goodness, even though I need nothing in return, my good is coming back to me constantly. And it's just a loving invitation. So I invite you to give with all your heart, and whatever you are able to give is absolutely enough. Thank you so much for your gifts.
And as we are stretched, Vanessa comes back, and a song that we all know, but we can really easily just sink back into being comfortable and say, oh, nice talk, nice singing. Or we can say, oh, these words mean exactly what was said. These are what this teaching is about.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah.
So we bless these gifts knowing that they are multiplied, returning back to us and fulfilling great deeds of love and upliftment, and sending forth this truth of oneness, this truth of wholeness, this truth that God is all that there is. Thank you, God, that these gifts are so beneficial to us and to our world. We give thanks. We are blessed, and so it is.
So it is. Let's join together for Blessed Always.
Rest in God and say amen, knowing we are blessed and a blessing. And we go forth from here carrying in our hearts the awareness that there is that in us that is fully capable of embracing and being a healing presence on the planet. Even little me and little you is so great that our decision to go forward and multiply these blessings of wholeness and oneness is a powerful blessing to the planet. I give thanks, all is well, and so it is.
So it is. Woohoo! There's food in the lounge, there are books back there, there's a workshop at 12:10, 12:15, around there.
sing to you. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she went upstairs. I got the feeling she went out the door. I think she, you know, 'cause it seemed like we got lost somewhere in that song. And I don't know where, but yeah, wonderful. I think I got to rehearse with this lady, but I'm gonna tell her I don't know how long we could rehearse, cause I think they're gonna have a meeting in here. Yeah, a workshop. So hopefully I won't have to rehearse too long. I was thinking to tell this lady she ought to have her daughter learn how to play the piano. I don't mean it so I could get a student. I don't mean it for that. I mean, but it would be good for her daughter since she's got her trying to sing. If she could sing and play, you know, it'd be over the long haul, you know. But I ain't gonna say nothing. So look, you know we're gonna be playing those songs with that girl. I don't know.